my crown jewel, my ex problem child, the client's process and journey action plan. If their account's set up, they understand the base of how to use HubSpot, and they understand what they need to know about their specific hub that they'll be leveraging and using, or hubs. The next thing I need them to do is adopt around their process and journey. And we struggled with this for a really long time, to not overwhelm, to make guidance clear and links clear, and to build it to a general template that we could reutilize, because every client's a little different, right? And what we found is there's a really good way to structure this, and it breaks into the phases of what you would consider a normal linear flow. And that starts with new companies or contacts entering and what you need to do with there, followed by, if you've created a lead, how you manage it there and what you do in the sales workspace and managing your leads up till qualifying them or disqualifying them, into opportunities and working the deals until you get that first deal closed and have a customer. And then we use the customer tab to dive into what happens there. And, we can expand that depending on the client's use. If they're using the customer success workspace or have other needs there around the client, that one can be a little different. We're linking into maps here. We're linking into videos, overviewing to start. But really what it is it's taking these kinds of maps where these are your life cycle stages. These are the automated ones. These are your dependent properties or conditional properties in key stages or areas. And so we have our life cycles, our lead stages, the key properties, what's automated, what's not, why, how do they affect the deals and the deal stages. And then, if they're using, obviously, the service object, that would be in the customer area. And it would also be in line that they were probably using customer success workspace as account managers as well. But we're trying to take this map and make it practical, because this is not as helpful for a sales rep or a marketing rep to understand. A marketing rep, it can be really helpful to know how to slice and dice segmentation, but a sales rep and a marketing and service should all understand what's kind of happening. So we start with just hitting an overview that explains the map and the overarching process of this, followed by using views and quick filters to connect and find records. And then we jump right into, and this is about how you, we have a view we call no lead open. It's like, the first two stages before opportunity or disqualified is the advanced filter. And it only shows people that have 0 leads associated, or 0 open leads, I should say. And they would go into that view because they're at the first 2 stages, which that's just our build. It's how ours typically functions for a lot of our clients. But then what I'm diving to is, hey, you have all these people coming in. Your first step is to evaluate. But before we even go through that, I cover stages. That's what I cover. And I point, if I can, to example ones that are at different stages. Just depends on the client. If I have examples that I've kind of pinned and said not to touch, but to show record examples. And I start at the top with life cycle stages: contact, disqualified, other, and lead. Because that's what you have to choose between when they come in. You either are going to create the lead, and it's going to flow through here, moving the company to here, or you're going to move them manually to disqualified because they're not qualified to be worked as a lead, and so they're not going to be created to it. You're doing that from the view. Or you're moving them to other because maybe you got CC'd by a partner or a vendor or whatever, and you need to move them out. So we cover those stages. And then we say, okay, now that you understand that, they all come in as contacts, right? That's where they all come in at. And you can either disqualify them, move them to other, or you could create a lead. And to do that, you would do it with this. We create a property called create lead instead of having them select that checkbox where they have to open the form and create a lead that way. We just do it automated for a lot of reasons, but we tell them exactly how to do that and then use the views to determine who should be reviewed. Now you've created leads. You've disqualified people potentially not creating them or moved them to other. You're ready to move to managing your leads. And this is now just a deep dive. They already understand the sales workspace. They understand all that stuff. This is a deep dive on the stages within. They understand how to use queues and make their daily workflow more simple. So now we're just stacking in the stages and what are the definitions of those stages through the leads here. And any of the dependent properties are called out that would need to be filled, right? Then we give some tips and tricks, just kind of reaffirming what was already covered in the Sales Hub best practice, but almost reminding, make it to where this could be gone through independently, because these are all the ways that you make that not feel weird or out of sync or out of place. But you have to work your leads, so you either qualify or disqualify. When you disqualify, right, we put that here, that it's going to require the reason, and it's going to move that contact to the disqualified lifecycle stage. We put a caveat in there that there's guided actions that will tell you if DQ'd leads from previous disqualification re-engage, and you could follow the process again. But If you qualify them, it's going to force you to create a deal in our systems, and that moves it to opportunity. If I look at my map, right? And now I can go through the flow here, and I'm then covering my deals. Then covering my deals, and this is very different. This is all based on a manual movement. This one is the most customized. It has the definitions. What are you supposed to do here? Very client specific. Maybe they have an integration of PandaDoc or QuickBooks or something like that needs to occur, key properties. But we're really doing the same thing. It's every task is pretty much a stage, and then we're adding tips and tricks on views or things like that as needed at the bottom. And once the first deal is closed, traditionally it's a customer. And you can see this one's a little blank, but it shows the life cycle. We have a dummy card for a task for customer status if they're leveraging that. And we have some dummy spaces for the only other things that they could be doing at this point is using the service object to pick up and actually move the service out to active and then manage that service using the customer success workspace, where we go into a big deep dive on that. And we really expand that based on the client's need. But this is a good baseline template to where if I've set up your account and you understand HubSpot, one of the welcome, and you understand your hub, everyone in the company can go through this, and it just focuses on the stages, and it breaks those into phases based on the overarching what you're doing and what we need you to do. Throwing some tips and tricks in there. But we would create the plan, really customize this, put in links, put in client-specific definitions, tweak it up, cover the areas that they think they may need more guidance, add other phases if needed. We actually tend to add a phase that's need help, have questions, support, and link to different ways to get in contact with us, chatbots, forums, emails. And we also have occasionally put in another phase around links to maps and additional training videos that maybe we recorded throughout, or, training calls that we did where we did live walkthroughs and demos. And we would then convert that to a client-specific template that we could reutilize for that client without having to customize it again, just update it if changes happen to the process. Crown jewel, last piece of it. When they meet this one, they are not overloaded or overwhelmed. We don't assign all of these plans at once. That's why I went through the process first. And this is the last one, because this should be very easy to understand when you understand everything else we've already covered. This is just kind of the cherry on top. And then we have a Q&A and a live demo if needed with the team. But we've made it to where what used to be fully meetings, everything else is now these assignments in the orders I've walked through in other videos. And it ends with just an hour and a half live demo Q&A. And we typically do one of those and maybe another 30 minutes in some basic question answering that typically already has answers in our library of trainings or client-specific information that was added to their account that they're already in and supered and is embedded. So we've seen much faster time to adoption with all this model. We've had a better understanding of the journey and how they can use HubSpot better before starting that, and confusing them with things like stages and automated movement, what that even means, and then making that understanding very simple at the end. So that is my journey and process overview, and I hope that's helpful.